In this edition of Southern Newsweek, a claim for a Dunedin teenager, why she's become the first high school student published in a renowned medical journal. Meeting the fans, Lions players get out and about in Queenstown during their last week in New Zealand. And why a controversial pedestrian crossing has the Clutha District Mayor up in arms. Kia ora, I'm Callum Proctor. A Dunedin high school student has given international researchers and her science teachers a run for their money after having her work published in the Journal of Medical Ethics. Year 12 St Hilda's collegiate student Izzy Robertson is the youngest person to ever be published in the journal.
16-year-old Izzy Robertson remembers the moment she found out she had achieved the seemingly impossible, becoming a contributor to the Journal of Medical Ethics.
I was actually on a school biology trip and I was on a bus and we're going in and out of coverage and I got this email but I wouldn't download and I saw it was like Journal of Medical Ethics, like decision on paper. And the thing wouldn't load, so I was on this bus.
She is the first high school student to be published in the top-ranked bioethics journal. Robertson's paper examines the ethical arguments for altering people's genes to make them live longer. She tackled the topic after discovering she disagreed with Australian bioethicist Julian Savulescu's point of view on genome editing.
We should make our children smarter, more beautiful, more athletic, like let's just go for it. And I was kind of like, oh, I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure if he's quite on the money there.
She looked at longitudinal studies and found the biggest contributing factor to unhappiness in the elderly was isolation.
So the procedure is expensive and the pregnancy obviously has to be planned. So it's always going to be a very small minority of the population. So majority of people's friends and circle of acquaintances won't have this gene. So a lot of them are going to end up being isolated because all their friends are going to die off and they're going to have this extra 30 years of life where they are socially isolated.
Robertson also tested her hypothesis by sharing it with her friends.
And then I asked the question, okay, if majority of your friends wouldn't have this thing, would you still like to live another 30 years? And at that point, a lot of them were like, no.
She says Savulescu, who also edits the journal, has congratulated her, but hasn't conceded he's been one-upped just yet.
He's like, oh, well, I'm glad you stuck to your argument. So he hasn't I haven't convinced him.
The piece is already published online and will be presented as a physical copy in the next 2 or 3 issues. Roselle LeBone, The South Today.
An iconic restaurant at Bluff's Stirling Point has reopened after suffering fire damage last year. Oyster Cove's owners Linda and Ross Jackson say it's back and better than ever. Here's Ruby Spink.
A drink with a view of Fovo Strait is a possibility for tourists and locals once again. Oyster Cove has been shut since September last year after a fire broke out in the laundry. After a long restoration, the iconic Bluff restaurant has finally been reopened.
Back in late September, the fire happened, and I thought it wasn't that badly damaged at the time, thinking, oh, a few weeks of repair. And then, then I was told the bad news from the assessors saying, no, it'll be 6 months to repair.
Her husband and co-owner Ross Jackson says as well as repairing the back of the restaurant, they also upgraded the bar and menu.
Come back down and have a look. I think you'll be more than surprised at the changes. Linda and Natalie did an amazing job with the design of the interior. Incredible design. And it looks really mighty, I reckon. Yeah. They've kind of changed the atmosphere of the place completely, really.
Both Linda and Ross say they're looking forward to hosting people at the southernmost tip of State Highway 1 again. I'm Ruby Spink for The South Today.
British and Irish Lions rugby player Rhys Webb made the most of his squad's few days in Queenstown, taking time out to meet the fans. And Queenstown reporter Mina Amso put a few questions to him managing to avoid any mention of that second test result.
Lions scrum half player Rhys Webb took time to pose for a photo with ecstatic Lions supporters in downtown Queenstown today. The Welsh rugby union player says he loves the resort town.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. It's a nice scenery, nice views, plenty to do. So yeah, it's really amazing part of the world.
What do you love about it?
I think it's just all the snow, and obviously you can get up and do the snow and then come down here and obviously chill out. So it's been pretty good.
And shop.
I'm stopping off on the way home, so getting some sun in Dubai, so I just need some shorts now. So
Webb won't be hitting the slopes to ski, but he is enjoying the snow and the scenery.
it's not too cold. It's a little bit cold on top of the mountain, but it's not too bad. So.
Have you been skiing?
No, I've been skiing now. It's not. I think we're allowed to do that part of the rugby side, so unfortunately.
When asked about the third test against the All Blacks this Saturday,
Yeah, should be good. Yeah, should be good. Yeah,
Cool.
on all at the moment, so yeah, should be good.
the next few days will see Queenstown buzzing with Red Lions fans exploring the resort town as part of the Lions New Zealand 2017 tour.
It's been really great. We went on the one 4 years ago in Australia, and I think this is better because the matches are tougher, and the All Blacks, everyone loves the All Blacks in New Zealand, so it's been a great series.
And how are you looking forward to the third test?
It'll probably be the best match we ever go to, I think, because it's going to be such an epic battle.
And how did you feel about the win last week?
Awesome, absolutely awesome, really great. And the crowd, the 20,000 Lions supporters were absolutely brilliant. We need to be twice as noisy next Saturday.
Are you going to it?
Test. Yeah, we're going to the third test, and we will be shouting. I nearly lost my voice last week, shouting so much. So it's fantastic, can't wait.
The Lions rugby squad are in Queenstown until Wednesday, preparing for the third and final test with the All Blacks on Saturday at Auckland's Eden Park. Mina Amso, The South Today.
Well, with no obstacles in sight and an excellent weather forecast, Oamaru was set to put on a good show for visitors and competitors in the weekend's Powerboat Ocean Race. The North Otago leg was the only race in the New Zealand Boat Marathon Commission Series being held on open water just outside Oamaru Harbour.
The North Otago Yacht and Powerboat Club are looking forward to hosting a leg of the Boat Marathon Commission Series. Spokesman and race convener Gary Story says Oamaru is the only race in the 8-leg series being held on open water.
2 weekends ago, we also ran North Otago Yacht and Powerboat Club hosts 3 of the 8 legs. So we've had 1 race on Lake Benmore and 1 race on Lake Aviemore already, and now we've got this one out in the ocean.
He's expecting up to 20 competitors from as far away as Auckland and Otaki to take part. Story says conditions, like on the day this interview was filmed, would be perfect, with just a little chop on the water.
Well, hopefully they're like today. We like a wee bit of roll and just enough chop to keep the competitors honest. If there's the roll like there is out there today, most definitely. In between when they round the Markham by Holmes's Wharf, if there's any roll there, even half-metre roll, the boat should get completely airborne as they power around the mark.
Story says the view for the crowd will also be good, saying the Oamaru event is one of the best for spectators, with racing close to the foreshore. After Saturday's racing at Oamaru, the next race is scheduled for July 22nd at Lake Waihola, with the final race in the series at Invercargill's Oriti Estuary on August the 5th. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
A crossing point is being built for pedestrians on State Highway 1 at the southern end of Balclutha. However, the Clutha District Mayor says it's in a dangerous spot and should be moved before someone is killed.
The New Zealand Transport Agency is completing some roadworks here on State Highway 1 in Clyde Street, Balclutha. Now, some of that work involves the installation of what is being described as a pedestrian island or refuge. However, the installation of this refuge has some local councillors and the Clutha Mayor concerned about safety.
There's so much going on there now that the thought that there's a refuge in the middle of that, trucks, rain, school congestion, it's a combination. By the time you put that all together with the momentum of the trucks going down the hill, the cars gearing up to pass for the passing lane, it's dangerous.
The councillors and the Mayor are also upset about the lack of consultation with the council or information provided to it about the installation of this crossing.
We actually had consultation by default around our community plan. There was a lot of crossings suggested on State Highway 1 in Balclutha, and not one of them was suggested there. And I really wish that the opportunity to consult was given with a wee bit more of a time factor to it.
We've been wanting a pedestrian crossing in that area for a very long time, but it's just not in the right place, right on a busy intersection.
When asked about this, the New Zealand Transport had this to say. Senior Safety Engineer Roy Johnston said the pedestrian point or refuge island being constructed on State Highway 1 was to help people who live in Hospital Road safely cross the busy highway. The majority of people coming to and from the Hospital Road cross between the Hospital Road and Lewin Street intersection. The crossing point has been designed to avoid impeding turning traffic as well as to provide a crossing point for people going to and from Hospital Road. Mr Johnston also said that if there was a need for further crossing facilities in Balclutha, then the Transport Agency would be happy to investigate. I'm Samuel White for The South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, the man accused of leaving a suspicious package in central Dunedin causing chaos fronts up in court, and why genetics experts are questioning the definition of dangerous dog breeds. Dean Barnes of Dunedin noise band LSD fundraiser appeared at the Dunedin District Court. The charge carries a maximum penalty of 3 years imprisonment. A suspicious package was found next to New Zealand Post on Moray Place on June 16th, with a note referring to razing your buildings to the ground and firebombing vehicles. The New Zealand Defence Force's Explosive Ordnance Disposal Squad was flown by helicopter to the city, and much of the central city was evacuated and cordoned off for hours. A group of friends joined Barnes at the courthouse following an event post on Facebook called Solidarity for LSD Fundraiser. Barnes will appear again in court in August. Opihi College pupils have seen firsthand the impact of drink driving after witnessing a mock car crash at the school recently. Rachel Comer was there.
The demonstration involved emergency services staff from Temuka and a pupil being rescued from a vehicle. The event was organised by pupil Phil Davis, the school's SAD Students Against Dangerous Driving representative. Davis says he came up with the idea for the mock accident to show fellow pupils the realities of a crash.
SAD tries to promote the effects of drink driving through not just big activities like this, but through small activities throughout the whole year.
The vehicle involved had belonged to a staff member's daughter who had been involved in an accident recently. Members of St John also attended the mock accident. At the completion of the rescue, school staff members and Temuka Volunteer Fire Brigade Chief Fire Officer Richard Webb spoke to pupils about driving safely. I'm Rachel Comer for The South Today.
Senior genetics researchers and some dog lovers are questioning the definition of some dog breeds as dangerous. A leading American genetics researcher believes aggressive behaviour can be corrected.
Is this the face of a dangerous dog? When dog rescue Dunedin volunteer Kimberly first fostered Oscar, his behaviour was in line with his description as a dangerous dog breed, being half bull mastiff and half Shar-Pei. She says her experience with Oscar has taught her desexing dogs does help with some personality traits.
But definitely fixing your dog makes a huge difference. Having them neutered or spayed, his whole personality changed, which was great. I mean, he was a 5-year-old whole male dog when I got him, so dog rescue put him through the vets and he came out fixed and beautiful, and yeah, he's amazing.
Oscar's mum Kimberly believes dangerous behaviour in dogs can generally be trained out of most breeds. Her thoughts are echoed by Deborah Hansen, who says people sometimes react to her dog Smudge with fear.
Well, I believe most of it was the bringing up of the dog. There would be genetics, but Smudge, people look at him and think, oh, what is he? Is he a killer? because you can't tell what breed he is, but he is the most placid, well-behaved dog ever. We've had him from when he was a puppy, and he's never done anything bad, or he's been a really easy dog.
Tackling the nature or nurture argument in canine behaviour, Head of Genetics at Otago University, Peter Dearden, believes it's more to do with the environment the dogs are in rather than breeding.
Well, I think there's a great deal of nurture in here as well. Obviously, when you think about things like tiny little pugs and toy dogs, we tend to think of them as not being aggressive dogs, but they can be. It's just that they're likely to cause a lot less damage than a dog the size of mine. So I think there's a lot of training. There's clearly dogs which have an aggressive tendency can be trained not to attack, and dogs that have non-aggressive tendencies can be trained too. So one of the really interesting things about dogs is their ability to learn things and to train those behaviours. They're very, very good at it. And I think that's what a lot of is interesting about dogs, but also it's a lot of where the problems come.
Visiting genetic researcher Eleanor Carlson says her research with man's best friend can in years to come actually help to solve issues in psychiatric medicine for humans as well.
And so actually one of the things that we're focused on are understanding things like anxiety in dogs. So some dogs get very anxious when there's thunderstorms or things happen in their world. They just have a very hard time handling it. And there's some dogs that are just completely chill and not bothered by anything. And one of the things we're interested in is how are differences between the DNA of chill dogs and anxious dogs, how is this actually different?
Carlson says it's fantastic that non-invasive animal research can help humans as well. Carlson says her genetic research project does not have an end date. Daryl Baser, The South Today.
After the break on Southern Newsweek, Ashburton celebrates our newly amalgamated National Fire Service. And Balance Agri-Nutrients promises no fertilizer delays, despite being embroiled in an African legal dispute. Welcome back. The biggest collection of firefighting gear ever seen in the South Island was paraded in Ashburton. The procession marks the establishment of the new national organisation, Fire and Emergency New Zealand. The new organisation brings together rural and urban firefighters under one national body. Canterbury fire appliances of all ages came to Ashburton for the one-off parade. Included in the procession was Little Flick, as well as a rescue Land Rover which Ashburton helped to fund in the 1970s. Internal Affairs Minister Peter Dunn says the move was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to bring together the functions of 40 organisations into a single integrated service. Balance Agri-Nutrients Chief Executive Mark Wynne says despite one of its shipments of phosphate rock being seized en route to New Zealand, farmers can still expect to get their fertiliser on time. The phosphate was mined in Western Sahara on land the subject of a sovereignty dispute, and it's stuck in South Africa until the courts there decide if it was legally mined.
Geopolitics have held up a shipment of phosphate that would have reached Bluff this month had a South African court in Port Elizabeth not stepped in. The 54,000 tonne shipment was destined for New Zealand fertiliser company Balance Agri-Nutrients. But the company is unlikely to see any of the product in the near future, unless a $5 million bond is paid. Balance Chief Executive Mark Wynne says he's disappointed.
The court in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, released their decision, which was that the case between Morocco and Polisario Group can proceed to trial. So we're disappointed in that outcome. It's a very complex issue, as previously outlined, and in fact the court acknowledged the complexity and said that they're not in a position to go one way or the other, and therefore this should proceed to trial.
Wynne says Balance won't be paying the bond to receive the phosphate, but says farmers can expect there will be minimal impact on fertiliser production.
We've made alternative arrangements for the supply of phosphate rock for the spring, so from a farmer's point of view, no impact at all. And in terms of the next steps, we are now trying to secure release of the vessel because obviously every day it's tied up in port is costing money.
He says the hold-up won't stop the company from using Western Sahara's phosphate in the future. The shipments will just have to take a different route. I'm Ruby Spink for The South Today.
Around 300 arable farmers recently gathered at Lincoln University for the Foundation for Arable Research's annual conference, with a focus on growing sustainable futures. And they're feeling optimistic. FAR Board Chairman and Canterbury cropping farmer David Burkett says he believes, despite some challenging years, the industry has plenty to offer.
We think there's a lot of opportunities there for the arable industry, so it's making sure we utilise and maximise those opportunities. So I think there's still a good future, and a lot of that will be around our seed production.
The conference included discussions on genetic technology, including gene editing, crop disease management, biosecurity and future foods. Burkett says when it was first established, FAR's focus was on agronomy, or how to grow crops better. And that's it for Southern Newsweek this week. Get online and check us out on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, or you can keep up with Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Callum Proctor. Thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.